Every one of us, at some point, has winced at the prick of a needle, fumbled with a little cup in a bathroom, or voluntarily became radioactive for a scan. Why? Because these are our lifelines. They're how we peek inside the body to hunt for clues when something's wrong. And if we could use them to detect every disease, we would, because they're the most convenient way to detect disease. Only they're not the most convenient. There is something much easier, and you're all doing it right now without even thinking about it. You're breathing. Every inhale, every exhale, it's effortless. And here's the game changer. With just one breath, we can detect diseases. It's faster, easier, and completely non invasive. And for those of you who've heard about breath based disease detection before, you might be in for a surprise because we've solved the challenges that have held traditional breath sampling from becoming mainstream. And I'm excited to share exactly how in this presentation. So, what can we detect with a single exhale? Let's start with one of the deadliest. Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths worldwide, with one of the lowest survival rates. Less than 1 in 5 patients survive beyond 5 years, mostly because it's found too late. In fact, if you or I were diagnosed with lung cancer today, only one of us is making it out past this year. But we know how to change that. The good news is there is a way to detect lung cancer early, and over 20 million Americans qualify for it. It's called a low dose CT scan, and if people do it early, they have a much better chance of survival. The bad news? Most people never get tested. And once it spreads, there's only a 5% chance of surviving beyond 5 years. Why? Well, CT scans are expensive, they emit radiation, requires multiple follow-ups, and have high false positive rates. Perhaps that's why it has the lowest screening compliance rate of all major cancers, despite killing more people than any other cancer. If we could simply catch it sooner, we'd save a lot of lives. Right now, there are two new promising possibilities of catching lung cancer. There are blood tests and breath tests. Liquid biopsies, blood tests, like those from Grail, work well for advanced cancers, but they catch fewer than half of early stage lung cancer cases. As a screening tool meant to save lives, that's just not good enough. Meanwhile, traditional breath tests rely on thermal desorption tubes, but it has a major problem. The process of analyzing those tubes can break down the very biomarkers we need to detect the cancer. Because of these issues, no one has nailed early detection just yet. But our discovery just might. We discovered that many volatile organic compounds related to disease share unique chemical features. If we could transform these fragile molecules into something easier to detect, we could completely change diagnostics. That discovery led us to develop a microreactor that transforms and stabilizes these biomarkers. We call it OneBreath. With the generous support of the NIH and the Gates Foundation, we first set out to tackle tuberculosis. But as the possibilities unfolded, we turned our focus to an even greater challenge: lung cancer. There's tons of research, hundreds, maybe thousands of studies showing that our breath could one day help detect diseases. But why haven't we seen any major breakthroughs? Well, the old way of testing breath relies on something called thermal desorption tubes. These are little tubes stuffed with special material that grabs the disease clues, called biomarkers, from your breath. But here's the catch: to get enough of those clues, you have to breathe into a machine for up to 30 minutes. Imagine huffing and puffing into a tube for half an hour. It's exhausting. But that's not even the worst part. They can't accurately capture concentrations of these biomarkers like you do with a blood sample. Think about a blood test. You collect a standard amount, you get precise results because you know the concentration of what it is you're looking for. But if you're huffing for half an hour, how do you know what the concentration levels are? Is every breath you took exactly the same? And it gets even messier. To study the sample, they sometimes have to heat it upwards of 300 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to bake a pizza. You would never cook a blood sample to test it, so why would you do it with your breath, especially when we're dealing with biomarkers that are extremely reactive to the environment. Then, even after you cook your sample, you need to zap your sample with highly specific ionization methods. This entire process and analysis can take upwards of over an hour. Now, compare that to what we do. We use a simple and standardized approach. You exhale once into a bag, and as a patient, you're done. We then suck that breath out of that bag and concentrate those volatile organic compounds into our microreactor. The biomarkers are released with liquid, and then they can be analyzed by liquid chromatography mass spectrometry, a process that takes only 10 minutes. In other words, we don't use thermal desorption tubes. Our microreactor stabilizes and pre ionizes the sample through a chemical reaction. There's no need to zap it. To release the VOCs for analysis, we simply rinse it off the chip. There's no need to cook it. One measurable breath, just like one measurable vial of blood. As a result, we are 30 times faster for the patient and more than 6 times faster for the analysis portion. And our chip is less than half the price of a thermal desorption tubes. To put into context, one of our competitors uses 4 of these desorption tubes for a sample, which makes us at least 8 times more cost effective. Now, this isn't just theory. OneBreath, our technology, has been tested on over 800 patients across multiple clinical sites for the detection of lung cancer. The results? 94% sensitivity and 85% specificity for lung cancer detection. That's better than most existing methods, including low-dose CT scans. And unlike other diagnostic methods that heavily rely on artificial intelligence, we don't. But what happens if we incorporate AI? Conducted at the University of Louisville, 2 studies were published analyzing both imaging and breath biomarkers captured using the OneBreath process. Just take a look at the results. I think they speak for themselves. Unlike other diagnostic methods, OneBreath isn't just limited to lung cancer. We've already seen signs that we can detect pneumonia, tuberculosis, and even COVID-19. This has potential to reshape entire segments of healthcare diagnostics. In fact, we have something that can not only create an entirely new segment, but significantly speed up our path to market. We'll be making that announcement soon, so please make sure you follow us. Breath-based diagnostics is finally evolving. Traditional hurdles like clunky equipment, thermal desorption, and unreliable sampling have been solved by our standardized, patented approach. That's why we're confident the future of disease detection lies within your breath. So it goes without saying, this is a massive opportunity. If we only address lung cancer and just get 50% of those who qualify to do a breath test, it gives us the opportunity for upwards of $6 to $8 billion of annual revenue. The total addressable market in the US alone stands at $62 billion, not counting other diseases like pneumonia, TB, or the next big global virus. The opportunity is huge, and the time is now. Of course, groundbreaking tech means very little without a team to match. We have the top thoracic surgeons, chemists, and engineers who have helped refine OneBreath, plus regulatory experts who understand the FDA and CMS pathways. And while we're always looking for great minds, we have the leadership and clinical experience to get real results today. The takeaway is simple. When diseases like lung cancer are caught early, more people survive. Our breath tests offers a fast, easy, and affordable way to make that happen. I hope you'll join us in turning the simple power of one breath into a global force for saving lives. Thank you very much.